Hello everybody, this is Maniac4Bricks, and I'm here today with the Toa Inika. All 6 of them, I finally collected them, so it's a collect-a-thon and a review at the same time. It would have made a little bit of sense to review them individually, but honestly, they're pretty much the same in terms of the basic builds. They do have a bit of uniqueness to them, but the thoughts between them are pretty much going to be the same, so we're just going to group it together for one bigger video. If you want to find more information about these figures, as far as the set number and the piece count for each one, you can find that all in the description below, as well as the appropriate price, because I don't remember exactly. I think it's either $7 or $8 when these were released back in 2006. As far as the box art, here's a quick look at one of the boxes, and it's a pretty interesting one, because on the top, on these 4 sections, if you were to put this figure away, or even find it in the stores back in the day, this would be the area where you would have the Zamor spheres, which each of the figures has 4 of. In this area is a try-me section for the weapon, which we'll take a look at later on. And that actually can be taken out of the box when you take out the figure. It has its own little tray, and it's pretty interesting. And here's a quick look at the back of it, at least, for one of them, pretty much all the same. So, let's get right on to the rest of the review. As far as the story goes with these figures, these are the Matoran that we've seen back in 2001 with those McDonald's Happy Meals toys, as well as the same ones that we saw in 2003 when they had a little bit of an upgrade to their bodies. But basically, they go with the Toa Nuva and the Turaga to Voyanui because they're looking for the Mask of Life. This is supposed to save Motunui because he is a dying spirit. So, the Toa Nuva go out, they get beat up by the Paraka, pretty much defeated. And now what do you do? So now there's a red star, some kind of weird celestial body that zaps all 4 of these characters and turns them from small Matoran about yay high into Toa Inika, because they're finding Toa Inika, the Mask of Life. So, that's how the name works into it. And they're actually pretty interesting figures. I would call them Toa Unika, because they break the mold from a lot of earlier Bionicle action figures, and they present a whole new standard for the rest of the figures. And the Paraka did that earlier in the year too, but I'm just going to go with these because they have a lot more to offer. First of all, they have no gears whatsoever for their play features. None on anywhere of their body. They are entirely comprised of ball joints so that you can fully pose them the way you want to, and they also have a pretty standard way of having ball joints for the action figures, starting with these and the Paraka. You have 3 in each limb from arms and legs, and then you also have 1 in the neck. So, pretty standard thing that carries from there onward in Bionicle for the most part for the standard line of action figures. What these also introduce is bodies. Their body armor itself has been reused and recolored multiple times for when they're, continuing that, ball joint only kind of articulation for future figures. Now, the other thing that's interesting about these figures is their heads. I'm going to jump straight to the play features right now and just remark how their heads are the most alien things. Yes, the masks, I would say, have a strange look to them by themselves, but also what's stranger are how the heads work. You see, the masks are all of flexible plastic that curves around this. This is a head, apparently for these guys. It's a bit of a downgrade, I believe. In terms of the shape of it, in terms of the complexity of it, it's bleh. But it actually serves a purpose. I don't know why the purpose had to be that these were rubber masks instead, but for one purpose, they have this constant eye glow, which is all the same color, and for some of them, actually has a bit of teeth in there, or quote-unquote teeth. You have a little bit of the white that shows through some of the masks for Jaller, for Hewkii, and for Nuparu, so it kind of has, the more expressive, actually even more Hahli, too. But also, what's interesting about that for a play feature is all the heads glow in the dark. The skull area glows in the dark, and then, this mask wraps around that piece. So, you can't really get it that well. I couldn't really get it that well on camera before recording this. So I'm just going to skip over that as far as, functionality. I don't think it really works that well. Over time, it is going to degrade. So what's also interesting about these figures is that they have two other play features. They have the projectile, which is for this year, the Zamor Sphere Launcher. They have an upgrade to this compared to the Paraka because they have sort of a magazine on them with these special pieces that are implemented with these figures and used later on, so that they can hold multiple Zamor spheres inside, up to 4 of them at a time, so you can just rapid fire launch them. The problem is this: there's no lid on top of this, so if you try to move the arm around, you're going to have the ball fall out. And maybe all of them, depending on how far up you move it. You also have the problem that if you have all 4 of them put in there, and you try to shoot with them, it will move the ball, as the first one leaves, the rest of them are going to jump up a bit. And when the rest of them jump up a bit, they're going to fall out. I'm not going to demonstrate it here because I'm going to cause a mess. I've already had a mess here before with them, so I'd rather not continue with that. So it is a bit of a downgrade, or a little bit of a disadvantage, I should say, when it comes to the Zamor Sphere launchers. A good premise, a good play feature, but it just needs a few pieces to keep the Zamor Spheres in place for when you're actually using them, or posing with them. The third piece that we have here, the third play feature of these, other than ball joint articulation and such, is that they all have a light-up sword. Which, by the way, each of the swords, really nice designs. I like it how it ranges things like a crossbow to a flame sword to a hammer, a harpoon gun, it looks like, and this laser, it's like a red light, or red sight kind of, laser. So, very interesting, and I'm just going to give you a warning right now. They do have a strobe light effect. Those who have issues with that, please take the appropriate precautions before we move on. So, I'm going to show off each of these. There are 3 different colors among the figures, and each one only has their own unique color. So, we're going to start with blue. And then we'll go to green. And last we have red. In general, they have the same pattern when it comes to lighting up and powering down, where it's slow, and then it's rapid, and then it just kind of abruptly stops. Like so. For the most part, these figures have the same exact build. They are roughly the same height, and there's only a few pieces in between them other than recolors that make them unique. For example, some of them have different feet. There's pretty much 2 different types of feet that are introduced with these figures, and they have them in, 3 colors of each. What's also interesting about them, I'd like to add, is that some of the figures even have a bit of this melding between 2 different plastics of different colors, which is a really cool effect, because they are unique. Very unique. Each one of them is different from each other. So you can have different strands of white that are mixed in with the dark blue, or over here you have different strands of silver that's mixed in with the dark green. You can even look and see on the feet of Kongu, this is a top area that has silver, and this is the bottom area that has silver. So I really appreciate that, and I kind of wish that they did it for the rest of the figures, but I digress. What's also interesting about these is that even though they are mostly the same builds, 2 of them actually stand out very well. And that's kind of 2 that I like a little bit better, just because of that factor. They have a formula for these figures, obviously, but not really much has changed from them. I mean, we have 2 of the figures that have different arms from everyone else, but that doesn't really change much as far as their composition. Now, if we just move some of these figures over to the side, I'll tell you what I mean. Introducing Hewkii and Nuparu once again. We're going to take a look first at Hewkii. What's interesting about him, he has the highest piece count among these figures at 62 pieces, and mostly because of all these pieces for his chain. The chain is a really good effect because it adds more to the look and the design of the weapon, as well as just his appearance. It just has a little bit more to him and actually works well with posing him in different ways. You can have the arm stretch out, and it still has enough chain links so that it won't get caught up. What's also interesting about Hewkii is that on his knees, he has a little bit of a different assembly. I mean, it's the same thing, but these pieces are actually put upside down compared to all the other figures. I don't know if I did that by mistake, I'm pretty sure that's how it is in the instructions. I don't think any of the other ones do it that way. I don't know why. And I kind of would have liked if some of the other ones had that same sort of thing. I know that each of these, some of them have different shoulder armor lengths, like it'll just be moved up a peg or so. So that kind of helps, but on the whole, you're really not looking at it in a different way. But this is probably my favorite among them, Nuparu. Just take a look at this guy and see something that none of the others have. He has claws on his hands. That's just so rad. They're like the coolest pieces of these figures outside of the weapons. For me, personally. I really like the claws in here because, you know, since these have been released, they've actually been quite well used for different armor pieces, for different hands of other figures, and so on. And it's actually really cool to have them. I think these two might actually be different colors. That's a bit of a mistake from when I got these used. But anyways, they're really nice. And I'm surprised that none of the other figures have any other different arrangements. I mean, you can move the weapon on different points of the hand itself, but they don't really change as far as the composition. That's the thing I'm focusing on. And also I'd like to focus on the fact that a couple extra pieces are added in so that Nuparu can have a shoulder-mounted Zamor Sphere. Since he has his arms full with the laser missile thing, he has the Zamor Sphere launcher up on here. This can be a bit of a problem because it mostly sits in an upright position, so if you're trying to aim with it, you might have a problem with the ball falling out from the top, even when you try to push it out. Alright, so now we got our demonstration of them shooting, and they actually go quite far and quite ricochet-like. So, they also had to fix a couple pieces back there. That's not part of the original design. That's just, some pieces broke. So, there's a look at everyone from the Toa Inika. What do you think about these figures? Let me know in the comments below. And we'll see you next time with more LEGO videos. You can check out other Bionicle reviews on my channel. And we'll see you next time with plenty other Bionicle and other LEGO themes being reviewed and just talked about in general.